Hi everybody, Frank Gray here with Abbey Realty, and I want to do probably about a 9 or 10 minute tutorial on how to complete the residential buyer tenant representation agreement. This will not be an in-depth study of the meaning of all the terms and conditions of the agreement, but I'm at least going to show you how to fill it out and what goes in the blanks. So here goes. Paragraph 1, the parties. You identify the client and their contact information, then your brokerage and contact information. Down in paragraph 3, identify the market area where you will be representing these clients. If they're looking in Spring, don't put Spring, or Pearland, don't put Pearland, because buyers are notorious for identifying a very specific area and then jumping off somewhere else. So I typically like to put in there Houston metro area. For the term in paragraph 4, obviously the date that you start looking, you want to have that date in there for sure, and earlier if you've been meeting for planning sessions with the buyers. If they're planning to buy in the short term, you might want to put a 6-month term in here because sometimes it takes longer than expected. If the buyers are looking at new construction or at some date several months in the future to actually consummate a purchase, then go out 12 months. Pad your time frame here to allow for delays and so your agreement doesn't expire before the home closes. Scrolling on down, at the top of page 2, it's going to ask you to identify the parties to this agreement. I like to put the last name of my buyers and then my name, my last name, and then that will auto-populate on all the subsequent pages. Paragraph 8, Intermediary, one of the most important paragraphs in this agreement. It's where the buyer authorizes you to show listings held by your broker, all of your company's listings. Now, it states in here what could happen should your buyer choose to contract for a listing held by your brokerage. The broker could appoint another agent to represent the seller. The broker could appoint somebody to represent the buyer. You could be representing either one, or option number 3, and this would really be the case if you're showing them one of your own personal listings. You could move to the middle, not represent either party, but just facilitate the transaction. Pass information back and forth, don't take sides, and just complete the documents. Very importantly, this paragraph doesn't state which of those options will be exercised in the event your buyer wants to submit an offer on a brokerage listed property. When that happens, you'll want the buyer and the seller to complete the actual intermediary agreement where those options are identified and selected. Let's move on. Paragraph 9, paragraph 10, paragraph 11. Here's where we get to the money. First of all, you're going to put in here the percentage of the sale price that you will earn if a sale contract is put together. Typically, it will be 3%, but that is not set in stone, and you'll put in here whatever percentage is appropriate for the type of property, the price range, or what you negotiate with your buyer. The second part asks you to identify how a lease contract is going to be compensated. Some agents will check the first box and put 50% of 1 month's rent, which is very typical and commonplace if you're talking about a 12-month lease. But what about if it's a short-term lease, 6 months? In that case, 50% of 1 month's rent might be overpaying you, at least from the landlord's perspective. Or from the other side, what if it's a 2-year lease, a long-term lease? Half of 1 month's rent might not be fair compensation to you. You probably earn a bigger portion of that. So what I like to do is check this second box and put in 4.1%, 4.16% of all rents to be paid over the term of a lease. If you do the math, that's equivalent to a half month's rent on a 12-month lease. But it's less on a 6-month lease. It's more on a 24-month lease. I love that because it scales the compensation to the total amount of rents paid to be paid over the term of the lease. Let's keep rolling down here. Paragraph F deals with compensation if you're going to be negotiating construction improvements. I've never done that. Don't know anybody who does that. We'll skip over paragraph 3 because that's just a big blank. G, protection period. This is an important one. Here you're going to write in the number of days after the expiration or termination of this agreement in which you could possibly still be compensated if the buyer purchases a property that you showed them while this agreement was in effect. Now, a lot of agents have actually never read this paragraph. They think that if they were the procuring cause, they showed a property under the terms of this agreement, but then the agreement expired and the buyers went out and purchased it either on their own or with another agent. The original agent thinks they're entitled to compensation. Not necessarily. Read this what this paragraph says. You have to actually provide a written list within 10 days of the properties that you're claiming protection on to the buyer. And oh, by the way, if they enter into a buyer's rep agreement with another agent, then this whole paragraph is null and void anyway. You're not going to get paid even if you did show them that home originally. So understand this paragraph so you can properly explain it to your clients when they ask you. I've seen 10 days, 30 days, 60 days. You put in here a number that you're comfortable with. Down to paragraph 11I, all amounts under this agreement are to be paid in a particular county. You definitely want to insert the county where your brokerage is located. But it's also appropriate to add another county if the property that you're looking at or considering is in another county. So it could be Montgomery and Fort Bend, it could be Harris County and Galveston County. You can't get a lot of counties in here, so if you get in one or two, including your brokerage county, you'll be in good shape. Paragraph 16, the addenda. Information about brokerage services is automatically checked because it's a required document at first substantial discussion with a buyer. You'll also want to check information and notice to a buyer, and then if there's a mold issue or possibility, if the home was built prior to 1978, definitely you want to include the lead notice. In Houston, not a bad idea to always include the special flood hazard area notice, even if it's not in a flood zone. And then finally, again, CYA, for your protection, get a home inspection. It's just a brochure that can be provided that warns or notifies the buyer that that's in their best interest. Paragraph 17, special provisions. You're rarely going to put anything in here. It is where most agents get in trouble as they start practicing law without a license. So don't write anything in this paragraph without first getting permission from your broker, because you don't want to stray over into the practice of law. Sometimes some information needs to be added, but it needs to be factual and explanatory, and stay away from writing laws, if-thens. Well, let's keep on scrolling down here to the bottom of the document, page 5. You want to fill in license number, check the broker's associate signature. That's who you are, unless you are the broker for the office. You're going to sign here, client signature and date on the right, and that's it. We have made it all the way through 5 pages of the Residential Buyer Tenant Representation Agreement. Obviously, you might have additional questions about the meaning of some of these paragraphs that we didn't have time to get into. Feel free to reach out to me. My name is Frank Gray. I'm the broker owner of Abbey Realty, and I'm here to help. Thanks for watching.